So if you're struggling to find an accessible way for you to play Game Boy Advance games, or more specifically Pokemon Rom Max, I got you. Today on Game Enjoyer, I'm going over some of the ways you too can enjoy some of these awesome titles with devices you probably already have laying around the house. And while this is a video covering emulators for the Game Boy Advance, I will not be providing any ROMs or places to find ROM files, and will only be providing a list of emulators under the assumption you already own your games and have dumped them legally. While there's always the option of playing on official hardware, some of these games, more specifically Pokemon games, extremely benefit from the fast forward function a lot of emulators have, making training and battling extremely fast. While some of my favorite Pokemon Rom Max do in fact have unofficial physical carts sold for very cheap on AliExpress, a lot of the time the version of the game loaded to the cart is outdated, and reflashing these carts is easy but only if you have the hardware to do it, meaning a lot of people buying these games will be stuck with unpatchable bugs. Let's start with something a lot of you will already have, your smartphone. First, we'll go over some of the ways you could play on Android, and then I'll cover some of the ways you could play on iPhone, but both benefit from being able to connect to some of the most common controllers through Bluetooth or wired, and with the right mount, you can turn any smartphone into a Game Boy Advance handheld with physical buttons with stuff you already own. This method is up there with being the most accessible, as most of you will already have a phone, and in my opinion, its only disadvantage being it doesn't have physical buttons. So with that said, this is a really good option, and many phones will have extremely nice displays that really complement the games while also having great brightness control and battery life just by default. I'm only going to cover the free options and won't go into detail what the premium features apps have, as I'm not promoting anything here, and while I do appreciate these apps existing, I don't think they deserve your money. All apps mentioned will be available on the Google Play Store. First up, we got Lemuroid. This emulator is beginner friendly and supports more than just Game Boy Advance emulation, all while being completely free and open source. It might not have flashy skins to make the UI look nice, but it gets the job done while being ad free. And even supports the ability to sync saves, as well as games to your Google Drive, so you won't lose a save file to your phone getting lost or broken. And it also lets you pick up where you left off on a different platform if you choose to. The next free option I'll cover here for Android is Pizza Boy Basic. This one is super easy to use and is built for Game Boy Advance only, making it streamlined for that experience. It includes all the features you'd want in an emulator, being no ads, 60 FPS, even on old phones, slow-mo, fast forward, with controller support, and even retro achievements, which adds community-made Xbox 360 era-like achievements to games that never had them, which to me added a ton of fun to the baseline Pokemon games. This option is great for anyone who just wants to play Game Boy games without pretty much any setup. The last option I'm going to go over is RetroArch, which could get its own video, so I'm not going to go into too much detail with this one, but RetroArch supports just about any system your phone can run, while having some amazing features like retro achievements. It's not the most user-friendly though, and seems a lot more complicated than it really is, but it's the most customizable option by far and has tons of community support while being available on many platforms, making learning it on one system like your PC really helpful, so you could take what you learned to any system you choose to play RetroArch on. Then moving on to iPhone, we got some great options as well, but less to pick from without jailbreak, so I'm only going to cover what is currently available free on the Apple App Store. First up, we got Delta Emulator, which is an all-in-one emulator with support for Nintendo consoles up to Nintendo DS, all while having an extremely easy-to-use interface with skins that make your experience fit with what you are playing all that much more. It also includes many of the best features like fast forward, controller support, cheats, and cloud syncing. It also somehow has the ability to trade from iPhone to DS wirelessly, and online features which is only currently available through this emulator. This emulator used to be locked to only people with jailbreak, but thankfully Apple has calmed their stance on emulation to the point where this is now available on the App Store. Next up is RetroArch, which like I said, for the Android users, this app can get its own video due to it being extremely unfriendly for first time users, but if you're experienced with this great piece of software already, then this feature-filled app is available straight from the App Store as well. Next, let's check out some of the ways to emulate on Windows PC or Mac, because thankfully the main emulators people use are available for both platforms. While this is not my favorite way to play, as I personally enjoy kicking back in bed watching Pokemon or another anime while playing, this option allows for the easiest ways to record your gameplay while being on a platform with tons of video editing software and the added benefit of being able to chill in Discord with friends while playing some classics. First, we got mGBA, which is extremely lightweight and easy to use while allowing for cheat codes, save states, controllers, fast forward, and supports most, if not all, Game Boy Advance ROM hacks. It allows for portable installation, so you can throw the whole install on a USB and take it with you wherever you go. Next, we got VisualBoyAdvance, which has all the features of mGBA with the option of playing Game Boy and Game Boy Color games. This also allows for visual filters and is extremely feature-rich, with it being the most popular choice for most ROM hack developers and gamers. It also has the highest chance for compatibility with ROM hacks due to it functioning similar to the official hardware, allowing developers to develop games that will work on Game Boy Advance and DS. And just like I mentioned before, mGBA and VisualBoyAdvance are both available on Mac and Windows, so if you're on PC, those are some good options. If you have a Game Boy Advance or DS kicking around and wanted to play ROM hacks on official hardware through a cartridge, there's actually a couple options for you. People often sell ROM hacks loaded to custom-made GBA carts. While these look super awesome, a lot of the time they don't have the real-time clock functionality, meaning the game won't play as intended, and in a lot of cases things break. And like I said before, these carts are stuck on the patch they ship with unless you have something to reflash it, which in most cases people don't. Thankfully I have a couple other options for you so you can avoid this entirely. First, we're going to cover the more premium Game Boy Advance flash card called the EverDrive GBA Mini, which is a bit pricey at $100 US, but for good reason. It's been the tried and true method for a lot of people for many years, and while it is pricey, it allows you to hold your favorite ROMs on one card. We all know how much GBA games go for. So for many people, this flash card just makes sense, and it's a great option for you to have fully functional real-time clock for your Game Boy Advance ROM hacks with the ability to also update the ROM if the devs release an update. Next is the Easy Flash Omega, which honestly shares all the exact same features as the EverDrive GBA Mini, while also being a flash card people have used for many years, which means the compatibility for both of these is extremely high, for most if not all games, due to the sheer amount of people who use these options throughout the years coming together to troubleshoot any issues whenever they arise. This option is a little cheaper, with it being on AliExpress often going on sale for as low as $40 US. The next is a very cheap option called the Supercard SD, which you can find for as low as $15 on AliExpress or even Amazon. This one a lot of people avoided for many years as the creators never really made a good software option. Well, that has thankfully changed thanks to a couple awesome people over at GBAtemp.net who have been working together to make a better, more streamlined software for this piece of hardware. Before, many games did not work on this due to the supplied patcher provided by the manufacturer, which would in most cases just break the ROM, and if it didn't break the ROM, you wouldn't be able to save. Now with Super FW, all tested GBA games work, and many GBA ROM hacks work on it, with more support being added whenever an issue comes up. So those are the options I think worth checking out if you still got a Game Boy Advance or DS kicking around, or like playing all the ROM hacks on official hardware. This next option is my favorite way to play Game Boy Advance Pokemon games and ROM hacks, and that is Handheld Emulation consoles. I currently play all my games on an Anbernic RG34XX, which looks super close to an original Game Boy Advance. But the Anbernic has a very nice backlit screen, more buttons with HDMI out, as well as USB-C ports for charging or to plug in a controller. This device also has Wi-Fi, allowing for retro achievements, SSH file access, and even watching videos. With it also having Bluetooth support, meaning you can hook it up to a TV, connect a controller, and it's a full-blown console with tons of systems to emulate. My favorite thing about it though, is it allows me to play all my favorite games and Pokemon ROM hacks with the ability to fast forward and speed up my experience. There's tons of other consoles just like this one, all being an extremely awesome way to play, and if you do choose to buy one, be sure to choose something that looks like it would be comfortable to hold. I had a couple of these handhelds before landing on the one I have now that I just couldn't play for longer than 30 minutes due to being uncomfortable in my hands, but thankfully they still ended up great gifts to my siblings. So I hope throughout this video you found a new way to experience your old favorite games, or even newly crafted ROM hacks on something you might have already had kicking around your house. I appreciate you watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.